How do you feel about tokenism in advertisements, and is tokenism better than not including African Americans at all?
Well, first of all, we have tokenism in the industry of having one or two African Americans or Asians or one woman that's a part of the advertising team. So in effort to try to have a voice for everyone, you do have one or two minorities that create the presence and that sadly are supposed to be the voice of that entire race or that entire gender. So that in itself is problematic, and I think that's what leads to the tokenism or the portrayal that we see of certain races, certain genders in commercial advertising.
It's always good to see people work. If African Americans get a slight part in a commercial, it's better than nothing. But my concern is this: if they play the negative role in a commercial, no matter whether they play the dominant character or the sidekick character, that's where the problem is. It depends on what they're playing. Okay? Not that they shouldn't play the negative role either. We just need to have a balance so that it's not always negative. So that we have positive and negative, just like the majority in the society. You have good, bad, in between that they do play. So we need to have the opportunity to play that variety of roles, whether it's in the advertising or in television.
From my point of view, I think for different races, they shouldn't have different specific, say, advertisement for specific races, because it is a globalized world, and this is diversity is really very important. I think for human beings we share a lot of similarities. So for me, I think we shouldn't have this specific advertisement for different races.
I believe in diversity in terms of advertisements. People vote with their dollars, kind of deal. And as I was saying before, we use soap powder, we buy makeup, we send our kids to summer camp, we pay taxes, we do all of these things. And so I understand that it's important to segment the market and all of that, but I think it's just crucial to pay attention to people in general.
Do you believe that it's important to target certain races for specific type of advertisements?
Absolutely. I mean, they digest things in a different way, not saying that they're complete aliens, but when you flip through an Essence magazine, you can see some certain products that a black girl wouldn't use as opposed to a white girl. What would they use? You see, herbal essences advertising in Essence magazine, but would someone who has the texture of hair that I have be using herbal essences? As opposed to a Caucasian person, probably not. So it's just kind of thinking in that kind of forefront way of how do they digest things and what would be perceived as authentic and speaking to that direct audience.
When you see the video vixens and you look at the state of black entertainment, we still, I think, do our own selves a disservice by when you see I think still some of the shows show us as demeaning. For instance, we will laugh at our own, our own demise. We'll see somebody being catered at a restaurant, and we'll show if it's a Caucasian or non-African American. We see some of the more elite pieces and more posture, more elegance. But then you'll find a Medea who will come out, we laugh at those things, but it's still showing us in more stereotypical roles than really where we evolve to. Because we are professional, we know how to behave in civil societies.
I actually feel as though in the near future it's going to be kind of a set look. Right now it seems as though for advertisement you just have that regular light skin with curly hair look. And it goes for any women, children, and even men. Like they have to have like some type of mix. It's not just straight, she's dark skinned or he's dark skinned. What are the main stereotypes or inaccurate portrayals you've seen in advertisements that include African American, male, and female?
Well, for the stereotypes for males, it's like you You have to be in like a rap video kind of setting. You know, you gotta have like, you know, baggy clothes, or you have to like fit the same image that you see on BET or something like that.
What do you feel like advertising agents should do differently to better represent specifically the African American demographic?
That's a tough question, because you have African American ad agencies that often portray us in stereotypical ways, and some of us might think that those agencies do a disservice in terms of how they promote and market their products to us.
I believe probably first and foremost, having people that are authentic working on the accounts that understand the intricacies of that exact demographic. When you have someone who understands those intricacies, does it in a genuine way, it translated to the audience in a different manner than it would be as if someone who is from a general market kind of looking at it in that perspective. So I think first and foremost, having people that represent that particular demographic working on those types of content.
Well, because we do not hold positions in the higher ups, that affects the kind of images that we see of ourselves on the screen. A lot of us want to be cute, want to look cute in front of the camera, but we need to be behind the camera and move up the ranks. And what I tell people is that if you want to fix a house, you don't fix the house from outside. You have to be part of the household family in order to fix it. So we have to have patience and work our way up in whatever the industry is, whether it's in the advertising or in television, so that we get to the point where we can make those kind of decisions, and that will affect what we see in advertising and also what we see on television.
I think that we need to teach advertising and marketing from a really global and culturally entrenched perspective, so that we understand how people view it on a national or an international scale. And I think it's important to be inclusive in your education. Just like we've started teaching about globalization across the board, we do now have to look at things like urban culture and urbanization across the board and how it impacts everything from advertising to socialization to communication.
We covered some of the issues before, things that we think need to happen to promote change, and we did also add a positive side to it and say that there is a difference between now and before, but
yes,
things still need to progress in a more positive light.
Right. But if you don't demand, there won't be any change. Imagine if people don't demand for changes, how static societies will be today. There won't be any change, it will just be static. The people who demand for changes, those are the people who make the society to move forward. So change is good.
First, you need to have the creative perspective there, but you also have to have the planning and the buying team thinking the same and on the same page. And I don't think we've become as progressive with that just yet. I think we're getting there, but we haven't gotten to that point. And it also comes from a higher level beyond just creative, but even thinking at the executive table. Do they have the forefront there to kind of think of what everybody else of a different shade is kind of thinking and how they consume their media? Probably not. So it needs to kind of change from creative level and an executive level before it kind of feeds down, to what you see on TV.
And then going on with that, it's interesting that you say African Americans are now being seen in a more positive light in professional roles.
Absolutely.
But in my research, there's limited scholars that have fully explored the racial makeup behind the scenes, and a lot of it, doesn't really go into detail about, African Americans doing positive things. You more so find, a whole bunch of research on the negative. So, like, in what ways what do you think needs to be done in order for those images to change, for more people to focus on, the leaders and the role models that are African Americans, and not just, the token black girl, so to speak, on the screen, behind the screen kind of thing?
That will take African American effort. A lot of times we want other people to put us in the limelight, but how about we just do that ourselves? We graduate out of HBCUs 500 to 600 African Americans a year since the 1800s. Well, where are we? We need to be able to move up into those echelons and be the leaders that we are, and toot our own horn, and then model the way. If we are behind the scenes, let not everything be about the color of our skin, but the measure of our performance.